welcome back, kings and queens, and welcome if you're new here. My name is Hope King, and I'm the designer behind King's Designs MD. Today, I wanted to show you how I make these paper purses. So I have a couple of them here that I have done. I hope you guys can see them. And so I wanted to show you the basic concept of how to make these. So let's get started. So as you can see, I've made a couple of these. So I'm going off the top of my head on all of my measurements right now. But you're basically going to need at least 4 sheets of cardstock. This is just regular 65 pound cardstock. I've done it with 65-pound cardstock, and I've also made it with what's referred to as luxury cardstock. The luxury cardstock is a little bit heavier. You can definitely use a heavier cardstock if you want to, but I was just going to try this tonight because I know this is something most people can have access to. So you're going to need about 4 sheets of cardstock. That gets you the basic template for the purse. You could definitely go for a 5th sheet of cardstock if you wanted to be able to reinforce the purse. Now I am doing this old school tonight, which means I am going to use my ruler, a pencil, and then I'm going to score it with my scoring board. Part of the reason I'm doing that is because my regular scoring board has something wrong with it, and I need to get a new one. So that's why I'm doing it tonight. I'm talking slowly because I'm actually looking for my pencil as I'm talking to you guys. I had a pencil up here that I've been using over and over again, and now that I actually need it, I don't know where my pencil is. So we're gonna make it work. All right, I found my pencil. Now the funny thing is, I was watching a video this week where a lady was doing a craft, and every time she lost something on her desk, she would yell, "Found it," and they basically turned it into a whole drinking game. And I think at the rate I'm going, I might end up having to do that. But okay, so this is my first sheet of paper, and this is just the 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. I'm going to put it on the 11-inch side, and I'm going to mark here 1/2 inch. Now I like to move mine up just a tad bit on my mat because again I'm using my ruler, and this allows me to line up my dots down here with my dots here so that I can make sure I get a straight 1/2 inch mark. Now of course, because I'm on camera, things just feel a little bit different for me right now, but it is what it is. We're going to line that up, and we're going to score it at the 1/2 inch line. I just moved it over to my 1 and did it on a 1.5 inch, but really I could do it here and just make it the 1/2 inch. And you see it sits on the 1/2 inch. Now we're going to do this again. So you need 2 pieces of cardstock. This is the first 8.5 by 11. Now we need a second 8.5 by 11. That is going to be the back piece of the cardstock, paper purse rather. This is going to be the back piece. The first one was the front piece. And just lining it up on a 1/2 inch mark and doing that. Once I do this, I take it to my scoreboard and I score it again because something's up. I can't remember. That's why I do it that way. My scoring board, let me just show you really quickly. So my scoring board, this is the one I bought a long time ago. This is the eCraft scoreboard. And it has a slicer on one end, or had a slicer on one end. And I don't know what's stuck to it, probably from my last project. But it had a slicer on this end, and then you could score. What I noticed is on my scoring board, it doesn't have a 1/2 inch mark, so I can't just score on a 1/2 inch. I have to start somewhere at the 1 to be able to start scoring. So this was my first scoreboard. This was perfect for when I was just making cards and I could just line it up and score it. But I realized to do more advanced projects this just doesn't work for me. So that's the issue with my scoreboard. But what I would do is, since I have two pieces scored, I'm just going to show you. One is my front piece, one is my back piece. And what I do, because my scoreboard doesn't allow me to score like a regular scoreboard would, I just put my line here and then I bring it to my scoreboard and line it up at the 1 inch mark, and then I score it. Now if you notice, I'm flipping my scoring tool backwards because I don't know what's happening. It feels like it's worn down on the tip and it just works better for me. But now it's scored at the 1/2 inch mark, and I can do the same thing with the back piece. I'm just lining it up here and I'm scoring it. Now, where I did this with a pencil and then came back in and scored it, you could have just done it with your ruler and scored it from the jump and didn't have to do that. But it's definitely easier for people to see. So that's my front piece, that's my back piece. I'm going to put those to the side and try not to lose them. All right, the next thing I need is my side piece. So this is my third sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Again, all this is 8.5 by 11. Now I'm going to turn it on the 11 inch side. So it's 11 inches across, if you guys can see. This is 11 inch side, and I'm going to mark it at 5.5. So take it here, and let's see if I can just score it. Well, no, mark it. So 5.5. The reason I didn't score it is because I actually need to slice this in half. So now I'll pull out my matching Westcott scoring tool, and I line it up and I cut it. So now I have two sheets. This is still the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It's now just cut in half. Now the easiest way to tell you from here is I'm going to score this again at the 1/2 inch mark on these two long sides. So and I'm sorry if you can hear the TV. Somebody's watching TV now. Alright. So it's scored at the 1/2 inch mark and at the 5 inch mark. So if anybody was like, where is it? 1/2 inch mark, 5 inch mark. Now the other thing I need to do is I need to rotate it to the bottom, and I'm going to score it a 1/2 inch here again. Now all these lines I'm marking now are scoring lines. So all these are going to be scoring lines. Now this part is optional. You can do this or you don't have to, but the easiest way to tell you instead of trying to do measurements is to just fold it in half. So fold it in half, and you can crease it all the way down if you want to, or you can stop. And let me explain, you'll see it a little bit later, but let me explain. And I'm going to crease it all the way down to make it easier for anybody that's just starting out so you don't get confused. So when we do our purse and put it together, this is going to be the side flap. So that'll go in a little bit on the side. So that's why we fold it in half, because that gives you kind of the indenture of a bag on the side. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to this piece, and I'll be back. Alright, so I have both pieces marked and folded down the center. Now I'm going to pull my scoring board back out, take it to my 1 inch line, and I'm just going to score all my pieces. Now try to get it as evenly as possible on that 1 inch line to make sure I score it as evenly as possible. And this line looks a little bit off, so I'm just going to even it up and make it work. Now, if you have like, I think my next scoring board is going to be the multi-tool with the score and the cutter at the same time. And I'm honestly a little bit intimidated by it because I'm scared I'm going to cut something that I'm supposed to score, or score something I'm supposed to cut. Scoring something that you're supposed to cut is not that big a deal, but cutting something that you're supposed to score, you can mess some projects up that way. So we'll see, guys. We will see. Let me know what you think. If you have a certain scoring board, or you have a preference on that, or seen some really good ones, let me know. Probably because I'm rushing. My lines just don't look as accurate tonight as they had before. So, move this one to the side. And the next thing I want to do is cut off my edges. So, right here, I'm glad I penciled them in for you. So I'm just going to cut on an angle so that once it's folded, the edges will be neater and it won't have as much bulk. So I'm just doing it to these two pieces, which are the side pieces. And I still have my other two pieces, which are my front and back. And I am just going to bend my score lines. You can burnish them down if you feel like you need to. This paper is not as heavy as my other paper, so it's bending pretty easily tonight. And actually, when I held those two sheets together, the one sheet looked like it was, the one sheet of luxury paper almost felt like the weight of two sheets of the 65-pound cardstock. So if that gives anybody a reference for how heavy the other paper was. But again, the light blue and the purple bag that you saw were both done with 65-pound cardstock, so it can be done. All right, the last thing we need to do is this piece. So this piece is going to be the bottom of the bag, and we need it to be 11 inches, which we know is 11 inches by 4 inches wide. So again, I like to move mine over just so I can see both sides of my 4, and then I can take it here, line it up, mark it, and cut it. Again, if you have a tool that does all in one, you don't have to worry about this. You can also put these measurements in your Cricut or your Silhouette so you don't have to be concerned. Now, the one thing I will tell you is once you cut it, your pieces look almost the same. So make sure you have the 11 by 4 inch side. The other side is 11 by, what is this, 4.5 inches. Yeah. So just make sure you have the right side or your bag is going to be off. You'll have half a piece like sticking off the back of your bag. Now, we have the bottom of the bag. The easiest way that I found to assemble the bag is to do the side panels along with the front and back. So I'm using Mod Podge. You can use whatever glue you like, but we want to make sure that the top and bottom are as lined up as possible. I would tell you in this instance, you want to line up the bottom because you have that 1/2 inch mark, 1/2 inch fold line. You can always trim off anything off the top that's not quite lined up. So go for matching up the bottom right now. I get super heavy with my glue. Please don't be like me, because you will have glue seeping out of everywhere and everything, and you don't want that. And it can make it a little difficult with your paper, because if you use too much glue, you get like waviness in your paper, and you really don't want that. So Hope uses too much glue. Don't be like Hope. like those silly little bobs. All right, so that is one side. This is the other side. And we're at probably about 12 minutes right now. The only thing I did was go off camera to cut or score one piece, which really didn't take long at all. So in about 15-20 minutes you can make this project and make it by hand. Again, if you put these measurements in Cricut, you can do the same thing much quicker. If it's something that I'm going to make over and over again, I like to put it in Cricut because I don't want to have to just do some of these things manually over and over again unnecessarily. You want your fold lines to be in. If for some reason, because I'm using plain paper, I can get away with this. If for some reason my line was folded the other way and I put it on wrong, I could just flip it over. Obviously, if you had one-sided paper, you have to pay attention, or if you have directional paper, you also have to pay attention. So I'm just bringing that down to make sure I line it up. And I've been running my adhesive that way, but you can do it this way, and this will allow you to make sure that you get coverage not only up and down, but side to side, and make sure all of your glue spreads out where you need it to be. Again, I'm using Mod Podge. I just put a tip on it because I got those tips from Hobby Lobby when I was doing ornaments for Christmas time. I was doing the polyacrylic in the ornaments. All right, so now I'm just going to do my last piece. Put some glue on it. I do want to try a couple of new glues just to finally determine what I like best. So I'm going to flatten that piece out, line her up, and get her on. And you can see my pieces, whoop, with the exception of what I just did, lined up really nicely. If that happens to you, just pick it up, put it back. That is the benefit of working with wet glue. If you are working with adhesive tape, you can use double-sided tape for this, but double-sided tape, typically, once you drop it, you're done. There are some tapes that are a little bit more forgiving. My first template that you saw, I did it with double-sided tape. It worked out, but it's definitely not something I would want to gift to anybody. So yeah. All right, we're almost done. So we have our sides, we have our top. Your bag should look something like this. Again, if you have any little issues like that, just snip it right on off so you can get it as even as possible. Not that big of a deal. Here. I've actually been using my smaller scissors lately. So those big scissors were giving me a run for my money just now. All right, so you just want to trim it off. So we have the bottom. All of our pieces should be down, down, down. And we can put adhesive on all of our bottom pieces. And I actually, when I was doing this, I was kind of squiggling my glue. And again, you see I'm a little heavy-handed with my glue. You don't need all this extra glue. But I would either run it like this and smooth it in, or I would kind of zigzag it to be sure that I didn't just have glue in one part and not another part. All right, so we have our glue on, and I am going to turn it right over on my base. Now this can get messy. Take your time, line it up, and make sure all of your pieces are flat. And I said to grab the other part, and it looks like I grabbed the wrong part. So let me pull this off and grab the 4.5-inch piece, the part I told you not to grab. That's the part you need to grab. So I hope you didn't get here with me and have a whole messy part that you don't need. But you need a 4.5-inch piece, not the 4-inch piece. This will give you coverage across your entire bottom. So just try to line it up. It's really easier for me if I do it this way. And just clean up any extra glue that you have. One other easy way, if you have a ruler, the ruler will allow you to get in there and press it down. Now, I said you would be able to use 4 pieces of cardstock. This would have been your extra piece for your straps, but since I already have glue on mine because I stuck it to the bottom by accident, I'm just dropping it in the bottom of my bag as a reinforcement piece. This is not necessary. It really wasn't a part of the plan, and it's a little bit long. But if you wanted some extra stability, you would have it. But let me show you what it would look like if that actually worked. So, again, this would have been my 4th piece. I'm going to pretend like I didn't make that mistake just so you guys could see what it would be. So, this piece, which is 11 by 4.5 inches, should be, what did I just do? Okay, brushing. I didn't line it all the way up to the floor. I knew something didn't look right. Okay, so this would be my 11 by 4-inch piece. This would be my 11 by 4.5-inch piece. This piece actually should be the bottom. This piece, which I'm about to cut, is the piece 11 by 4 inches that ends up becoming your straps. So, sorry guys, I'm trying to see and cut. So, I'm cutting 1-inch pieces. I know on my cutter, if I line it up here, this gets me 1-inch straps. So instead of just taking it over here, cutting 1 inch and coming back, I know that a certain spot on my cutter is going to give me a 1-inch strap. So what you should have is 2 11 by 1-inch pieces. These will be your straps. Then you will have 1 piece left, which is really just a scrap. And the only thing I'm going to do is just cut it in half. You can leave it long if you want to. So this is going to be your reinforcement piece for your straps. So you can cut it this way or you can cut it this way. I'll leave that up to you guys. I've done it both ways. What I'll tell you is if you cut it longer, you end up with a little bit more stability on your bag. So I'm just going to put an R on these so I know they're my reinforcement pieces, and I'll show you what I mean. So you have your 11 by 1-inch pieces, and I hope I ain't confuse you guys. I might do a second video just to make sure I don't confuse anybody. And I hope you saw what I did. I just used my tool and I ran it here on my paper to make it curl. So now what I'm going to do is I'm bringing my bag back. I'm going to put my bag on its side. And I'm going to line it up if you guys can see. So I know at about 3.5 inches and about 7 inches. That is where I want my straps to sit. So I'm going to glue those down here like that. Alright, so I have my straps down. I'm just going to flip my bag over. Again, I'm going to put it on my edge because I want my straps to be at the 3.5 inch mark and the 7 inch mark. I've already got my piece pre-curled. I'm going to put some glue on the end, about 1/2 inch in. And I like to do it one piece at a time, and I hope you guys can see. So I'm going to put one piece down, get it into place, and then I'm going to use my scraper tool to get in there and just burnish that down. I like to get one piece at a time because this bag, the strap curls, and so it pulls and gives you some resistance. So you really want this side to be set before you move on to the other side. So just get that really stuck down and then move on to your next side. You want that again at the 7 inch mark. About 1/2 inch down. And just really burnishing that in there to make sure it is really stuck down. So now you have the basic construction of the bag. Again, I just stuck that piece in the bottom. It really doesn't even cover all of my edges, but it offers a little bit more support just so that have a little bit more support on the bag. But that is the basic construction of the bag. So now you have a simple bag. If you reinforced it, you could use it to carry heavier things. I wouldn't do too much with this other than stuff it with some tissue paper and use it as a cute gift bag. But I hope this helped somebody. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and you guys have a good day.